Right. Well, I had a pretty full class last year, and it's a bit of a captive audience. So participation in the school store was really merit based. So I did a lot of talking with their teacher. I was only there once a week, so I did a lot of talking with their teacher about who was sort of, understanding that they had to complete the things that they had to do, their objectives for the week before they participated in the school store. And because also the school store itself, the physical space is very, very small. It was a bit of a closet with shelves and sort of a half door. It was less an idea of having to recruit, more an idea of having to be selective about who participated and who didn't. So there were some students each week that really wanted to participate and actually couldn't.
My coworkers, his name is Bob Schooley. He was an English teacher in the program that I taught in. He ran a program called International Helping Hands, and he had a good core group of, it was more than 5 or 6, maybe a dozen students that he met with. I don't know if it was a monthly or weekly basis, but part of what he did with that group was he shared about his travels to Africa. He traveled maybe, I think now it might be once a year, but he used to go more. I think maybe 2 times a year to Africa to help build schools, supply clean drinking water, mosquito nets, really basic needs of life that he would go there and try to help supply. And this group that he worked with there, they aided him in his efforts in Africa. So when I was talking to him about the coffee shop business, he invited me to sit in on one of the International Helping Hands meetings. And I told them my idea and what I wanted them to do. And I remember most of the students coming from that group, but I think others came in just through word of mouth, students talking to other students. And that's how I got that core group that I did. Yeah, mainly word of mouth. That first year it was through the other school group, International Helping Hands. But these past years now it's been word of mouth. And I talk about it in my math classes that I teach. If anybody wants to help, they're welcome to come down. I didn't this year, but in the past I've made announcements as well over the school PA system. But it seems like the most effective way is word of mouth and through the 811 program, having other teachers as well that I teach with, letting students know, hey, we're running a coffee shop. You're welcome to come down and help if you want. I think other students in the school population, I think they do see their friends working, and they'll come up and chat with them, like, what are you doing? What's this? Can I help? We've had that in the past, actually. Now I come to think of it. Just students come up out of curiosity, or they see their friends working there and they want to know what's going on. I think the main motivation is just the company. The school day starts so early. We start at 7:30, and to come in at 7:15, I think part of it is just positive interactions with adults and students. And sometimes we're the first positive interaction they've had since they left the building from the day before. So I think that's a big part of it.
Well, the way our SAGE organization is run here, and it's different in different places. Some of them are run through a business or marketing or entrepreneurship class, and the businesses are started as a class project, and the components are graded and all those things. So it's actually a component of a class. And that's one sort of model of how you operate a SAGE group. There are SAGE groups that operate in things like a boys or girls club or some other sort of after-school clubbish organization that is not connected to a school, and they've been very successful. And the way it's run here at City Charter High School is it's an after-school club. It's not connected to any class. None of the components or anything are graded. And I've got students that are members of the club that do various different things, from build the website to do marketing. I've got a huge crew of students that just love to do outreach and volunteering and things like that. So we've got a big outreach group. We've got the group that manages sort of the overall business, and the group. Or I've got students that don't come to club meetings on Wednesday, but they do their recycling shift every Friday. So I've got all kinds of different kids doing whatever it is that they like best. I have always left it open to whomever would like to join.
I have 10 students in here, and the way that we have it designed is that We have students in here from 14 to almost 21, 20-year-old this year. So for our younger kids, this is sort of their segue into transition. So we start with them in sort of soup on the fly. They've never heard of it before. They're excited. Well, they've kind of heard of it before because we're into the middle school and the elementary, but this is really becomes their baby. And they do the shopping and the budgeting and the selling and marketing and all that kind of stuff. Whereas our older kids, we're now kind of weaning them off of soup on the fly, and we're transitioning them into our work-based learning program, which is getting the students jobs in the community, because we've built up these skills that we were able to do within our own business, and then, transition them nicely into some places of employment to continue to gain those employability skills. And to do that, we gave presentations. The 10 students in here went to the accounting class and gave a presentation. This is our business. These are the areas that, we'd love to have help in terms of, sort of making our the money aspect, I'm saying this wrong, but the money aspect of it a little more concrete. Could that class begin creating different kinds of spreadsheets that will, better keep track of all that we're doing and making and, that kind of thing. So we did it to the accounting class. We also did a presentation to our BEAT class, which is business, entrepreneurial, education. I'm not exactly sure what that stands for, but it's a business class. And, these are the ways that you guys can get involved. We need somebody to help with photography. So what we ended up doing, let's say just for that one role, is we had a student say, well, I'd like to volunteer for photography. And then one of my students, who is one of his goals is more on the artistic, crafty side. He wants to do something with art. So we put those two together, and they together took photographs and video, and they worked together. So that's what we did with a lot of the different jobs. We would pair one of my students and their interests with one of the students from these other classes, and they would volunteer that way. But now we've presented to the Key Club, which is a service organization club. We've presented to the National Honor Society. The National Honor Society students are now coming in to get their sort of service hours. But what we find is if they need 3 hours, they get their 3 hours, and then they're here an additional 15. So not only, I think maybe for some of them it might be, well, I need to do these volunteer hours. This is great. We've got this business on campus. This will work well. But I find that it tends to go beyond that.
That was interesting because it really wasn't a volunteer situation. It was I had my students, and we had the kids from the technology, just a few kids who had worked with us before, and they knew the kids, and then we had this other co-op group come in, and we just, in the beginning of the year, put these classes together, and they didn't really have a choice in the fact that they were going to be part of this whole thing, and so it was, we were kind of apprehensive about how the whole thing was going to work, but the whole idea of the business really brought everybody together. It was something that everybody could see as something that they could be successful with, or it could be a fun thing to do, or it just kind of the light went on when we talked about developing this business, and everybody, all of the kids got interested in it and started making these connections when we started pairing up, and we were a little apprehensive about it because we thought, well, these kids did not sign up for this, and it worked out beautifully. Within a month of just getting everything organized, the kids without disabilities were really good and were happy to do this partnering, and they kind of figured it out. They knew maybe the kids, so they picked who they wanted to work with, and they developed these relationships, and it just went so much farther than we ever thought it would. And then we started trying to develop the business more as far as developing social relationships, and we started having these outings where we would do things together, do fun things together with the money profit that we were making, and trying to develop relationships outside of school. And so that was a lot of fun. We had a good time with that. And some of the kids started getting together outside of school on their own and doing things, and it really developed a whole different kind of relationship, and the class was a lot of fun. We just had a good time, and we did a lot of activities together. Some of the kids that were in that co-op class, they're not the top kids in the school. They're kids, somewhat struggling themselves, and having some issues of just not really liking high school and wanting to go out and work, and so it kind of gave them opportunities to be leaders. Kids that normally would not be leaders in a high school put in a leadership role, and we were really it was interesting to us how that all evolved. That here's kids that have some needs of their own, but they're really stepping up, and they're taking over, and they're helping to lead this whole business. And so it was kind of an outcome that we never expected.
It attracted students who could perform well with their hands and had natural inclination to have mechanical skills, and so they just excelled. Whereas in class, often it was a behavior problem because they, whatever their attention span, it was they were limited by the choices they made in class. But when you saw them outside and the way they could handle the tools and the bikes, it was an amazing contrast. So it drew a little more respect from me because I saw this mechanical giftedness about them. And it also helped me to relate. The motivation was for both of us, for them to maybe get their work done in class, and for me to be able to affirm to them, how important that was, and then tie some of the science in, with leverages and when you're trying to untighten a nut or a bolt or something, they have to use leverage or using the right tool. And the other thing, it drew students to the activity. They gathered around all the time, and I think that's what appealed to me, was that they had a natural interest, boys and girls. And the beauty of that, and from my point of view, is that the common language was bike repair. And so my Russian students and my Spanish-speaking students, and they talked bike, and it was amazing to see the friendships that grew out of that.